where else, one might say, with Manchester City 6, 3 Manchester United. JJ, Erling Haaland, we've spoken about him a lot on the podcast already. He's broken the game, hasn't he?
He's very efficient.
Yes.
He doesn't take a lot of chances to score all of the goals.
No.
It's really great, though. Like, he's really fun to watch. I remember seeing him play for, I think it was Salzburg before, wasn't it? It was that when he first started?
Yeah.
And I can see that you can tell straight away some players that they're absolute players.
Yeah.
This guy's next level. And then you see that he's just always in the right place at the right time. The weird thing I keep seeing him do is that he seems to... It's like he's cheating. Like he's... You know when you get lots of people playing like Call of Duty tournaments?
Yeah.
Into video games already. But there's always accusations of people using wall hacks.
Sure.
Or something like that.
On this, I was playing Rocket League last night with some friends, and we were talking about Haaland, and we said he's smurfing, basically. Smurfing is a gaming term for when someone has a higher skill level and is playing in a lower rank deliberately in order to win and or troll lower ranked players. And it does feel like Haaland... if there was 2 more leagues above the Premier League, he'd be in that top one. You know, it's like having a Premier League player just playing in League One. It's
weird when the ball gets him in the middle of a crowded box, he's still away from other players, and that usually he's floating about the penalty spot. You often see, like Foden's first goal in this game, he goes front post. You can see they both look at each other to know where they go. So Haaland pulls over to the back post because that naturally is where Foden goes. And there's loads of reasons why. We covered this in the video I did in the weekend about Eriksen not tracking Foden for the very first goal. But there's a bit of distance between the first line of defence of Man United and their midfield line. So like the back 4. It's actually a 5 at the time because McTominay goes to right back.
Yeah.
And but Haaland manages to then, when he scores his goal, to just drop into these spaces exactly where the only ball could go. That's why I mean it's like wall hacks, is he can see the direction of the ball as though it's programmed, so he knows where to go exactly to get on the end of it.
He's looking at the football matrix.
Yeah, and I wonder if this is a thing. How does he know every single time? Like, there's places where you should go, and like whenever you're playing football at any level, you'll find ways to get space, and he does little subtle movements to get away from people. He shoves them 1 minute, then pushes the other way. But everyone else goes one way, he goes the other. He's always calm in the chaos of it, and he does that. He does that celebration where he does meditation.
Yes.
Afterwards. That's maybe what he's doing. He's working this next level.
It very much might be. I mean, I thought, Seb, that the commentary team here did a very good job of explaining how difficult the goals he scored were to score, because they look quite easy. You know, the ball comes in from the edge of the box, but when you take a second look, you can see how much it's bobbling. And those, you know, you sort of see goals or misses, I should say, in the Premier League fairly often, where a striker is within 6 feet of the goal and blazes it over because the ball is bobbling a lot as it approaches him. Haaland just makes those, you know, receptions look stunningly easy.
Yeah, you know, the one that really impressed me was the conversion from the De Bruyne cross, which was wonderful, and it I suppose in kind of football parlance, it put it on a plate for him. But in reality, if one of us was trying to convert that chance on a ball on the half volley, which is bouncing, and we're reaching to get to it, and our legs are about 7 foot long, just by themselves, like the precision in that is it gets lost, because he kind of, it's like all excellent players, they normalize their abilities over time. They create the expectation that something is really, really easy. Actually, as Foden did for the first goal, because I think that if you remember what it's like to play football at 38, that memory is kind of fading pretty quickly for me. But the ball coming towards you, you're trying to turn back across your body. Like, how often does like a normal kind of amateur park footballer like us just see that kind of bounce off their shins and go straight back towards where it came from? It's a wonderfully deft touch. But yeah, I think as per that goal in the Champions League, where he sort of controls his body, and the touch is kind of, the touch produces a strong finish, but it's very precise, and it's kind of gentle in its way, very crisp. It's remarkable to see.
Well, here's a couple of things about him I saw over the weekend, JJ. The first is that L'Équipe gave him a 10 out of 10. And if anybody has seen L'Équipe's player ratings previously, they will know that is an extraordinarily rare thing. I believe only 13 players have ever received a 10 out of 10. And L'Équipe will give a team that played very well, their star striker who scores a hat-trick will get a 7. You know, so that's something on its own. The other thing I saw that was really interesting over the weekend was a few people tweeted about this, actually, that Haaland is rarely, if ever, offside. I think you look this up, he's been offside in the league twice so far this season. Yeah. And for a player that scores so many goals and plays on the shoulder, that is remarkable.
Well, yeah, it is good that he manages to do that. It's 'cause he's very clever the way he plays. I mean, compared to other strikers, it's not. Harry Kane's been offside 3 times.
That's one more.
That's one more. Even Tony's been offside.
That's
8.
a whole 50% more. Even Tony's been offside 8 times.
Yeah.
And to be fair, Harry Kane
more
would
games.
rarely be offside because he drops so deep. I mean, he's virtually an attacking midfielder these days, isn't he? He doesn't play off the shoulder in the same way that
true.
Haaland does.
Yes.
Look at me do football. Isn't that impressive?
You're doing all the football.
Thank you.
Ronaldo's been offside 4 times in 6 games.
Okay, yeah, and he's barely played. Those 6 games would have been about 20
mostly
minutes
on
each,
the bench now,
right? Yeah, hard to be offside from the bench.
Very difficult. Also, the keep have started giving a lot more 10s. Like if you go through,
Have
all,
they?
yeah.
Oh.
So if you go through all the lists, it goes. There's like 1 in 1994, 1 in 1998, something like that, and then it
Right.
suddenly jumps to like some new writers or editors come on, and it's in 2017 it's like 1, 2, 3, 4. It's like Neymar and Mbappe, like PSG absolutely steamrolling other teams, and I think Mbappe got one for scoring 4 goals against Kazakhstan. I think it
I
was.
feel like you're just myth busting all the fun things I brought to the
No,
conversation.
I like that. But you got to put it in context. It's great that Holland is not offside. I like what Guardiola said about him. He was asked whether Messi is better or whatever like that. He says the thing with Holland is that he needs his mates, is what the term he used, mates around him so he can finish the action. And that's what he's so good at doing, like we say, being in the right place at the right time, always knowing where the ball is going to go, always knowing what run to make, either to facilitate his teammates getting in the right positions to score. Like there was an example where he passed it wide to Grealish when he could easily have put it on his left foot and pinged it top corner. You've seen him do it in loads of videos and training all the time. But the better option is Grealish, who then has a higher chance of scoring. You can see that what happens. Then Grealish takes a touch, slows the ball play down, doesn't shoot. And Holland's like, well, why did you not just shoot? That's why I gave the ball to you. That was the whole point.
Well, Steve Hankey makes an excellent point in the notes here to say, do we talk about his mental attributes enough? When we talk about Haaland, we talk about his physical prowess and his size and physicality against other players. He's a smart boy.
But it's all linked together.
It's all linked together.
That's it. He's able to... Like he's massive. He's a massive boy.
Yeah.
And then defenders don't like that.
Yeah.
It's hard to deal with. You see the corner that he scores is Ericsson. Ten Hag said this was not the plan to have Ericsson marking.
Well, that's good to know.
Obviously, it's not.
Yeah.
I wonder if it was meant to be Varane.
Varane was off injured at that moment, wasn't he?
So that might have been that he was. I haven't checked. I should probably have checked before he did this. Who else was marking him later on? But
someone probably should have thought, "Hey, Varane's not on the pitch, though. Maybe we should send another big lad over to stop Haaland."
Scott McTominay seemed to be quite close by when it happened.
He was
Whether that really
he was a
counts, I don't
zonal
know.
line on the 6-yard box, so he would be. See, he's a tall guy, so he'd be one of the first headers in the middle of that box. It makes sense to put a tall guy right in the middle if you're whipping it in, and they're whipping the corners into the penalty spot. I think almost every single time City in that game.
Yeah.
So Holland's got away from him to score that.
Okay.
That's the thing he's worked on. So that one of the things I thought when I saw him play for Dortmund a lot was that although he's a massive boy, he's not very aggressive with it. But he doesn't necessarily need to be like bouncing people out of the way. But what he seems to have got really good at is then knowing where the ball's going to go for the header. Maybe he's been told the ball will go to that bit of the pitch. That's where they're going to go to in the set piece, so he knows where to attack it.
Well, on his learning curve, I was talking to someone about this last night who said, having watched him sort of extensively 4 years ago, when he would have been 18 years old, he wasn't then, obviously he wasn't the player he is now, but he wasn't then necessarily expected to definitely make it to where he has arrived to. That person that I spoke to last night was incredibly impressed by his ability to learn. I think that's one of the things that's maybe underrated about him as well. If he doesn't know something, they were talking in the commentary yesterday about how Solskjaer, or presumably one of the coaches at Molde, worked on heading with him.
Solskjaer, apparently. Yeah.
And apparently he wasn't that good at heading when he was younger, despite his size. Now he's amazing at heading, and maybe the underappreciated part of his game is he's just really good at getting better. Presumably that's the most important thing if you're a footballer.
He seems to be super smart. I think he comes across in, maybe not super smart, just very intelligent. But there's a thing with the theory that footballers aren't smart. There's a book that an ex-Norwich player wrote, Paul McVeigh, I think it is, called The Stupid Footballer is Dead. I think it's a really good book. And he talks about how basically all footballers are not stupid. To be able to play at that certain level, you have to have a level of certainly emotional intelligence or some sort of intelligence that allows you to understand how to play the game and the way it's played, and be able to do that. And he cites, I think, in this book, talking about how you might get people you'd think to be not very bright sports fans, but yet they can list like statistics and analyse things from this was American sports. He was focusing on a lot, talking about how they can remember like how many home runs someone scored in baseball, whatever.
Which is how we value what being smart is. Isn't
Exactly,
it?
it's where the actual
what we think in this country, based on how we're taught, is it's academic, and if you can do maths or if you can like retain important information and pass exams, therefore you are smart. And clearly that is not always true.
No, but then you see this is Holland's brain is working like a mathematician, because you can see the angles are coming in where the ball's going to go, where more likely things. Like there's a lot of patterns in football.
He's like the meme.
With all the numbers going past his eye.
What's that guy's name?
Don't know. I remember the one that's a
the
woman.
guy from Zach Galifianakis, Between Two Ferns, that guy with all the memes over his eyes. Anyway, never mind. Yeah. Seb, do you think he probably has a big goal bonus agreement in his contract? Because he's presumably making a lot of money. 14 goals in 8 games in the Premier League. Oh man, he's going to. I mean, I read that there were people who'd made bets at the beginning of the season of him scoring 40. Who, I mean, it doesn't look unlikely now, does it, Seb?
No, I don't think so. I think actually, if we go back to some of the things we said earlier in the season about like how you deal with a player who is that big, who's that quick, I still feel like the centre backs who come up against him in this kind of first run of Premier League fixtures and Champions League fixtures, players who haven't seen him before, they're still underestimating his physical abilities. Like the margins in which he scores, you can tell that like someone's given him a yard too much of grace, or someone's pressed a bit much towards him. Who was the player that got kind of ragdolled by him a couple of weeks ago at the Etihad Stadium? I forget. It was a centre back, and he just kind of pushed him off like he was a child. I still feel like he's kind of taking advantage of those matchups, and it's. I think what's interesting is yes, how many goals he scores, but also the second time some of these players face him, what adjustments they've made and allowances they've made to try and negate that. That'll be really interesting, because that'll be a coaching, technical aspect, which we haven't had the chance to see yet.
I think you're dead right. There's like a lot of momentum just now, and City are playing really well, and it's early days. And I think eventually what will happen, there's so many games, you'll have to start getting rotated. Because I was going to say, it's interesting that
check out the chart that Steve Hankey just put in and tell us about that, JJ, while you're talking.
Well, there's a chart that we can't show. Can we put it on the podcast? I don't know. We can.
Probably not.
Probably not.
But it's from Mitchell Sterling.
Yeah, it shows that Holland has twice as many goals as any player who went on to score 30 goals in the Premier League. But this is
at this point in the season.
At this point in the season, early on, and it includes players like Alan Shearer and Andy Cole, all the top lads, Thierry Henry, all the rest of them. I think
if you imagine the graph looks like this, and then Holland looks like this, and for people just listening, that's diagonally to 45
he scored a lot
angle,
of goals,
and then a 60-degree angle.
Yeah.
Yes,
okay. Mo Salah had a good start when he came in as well.
Yeah.
Basically, I think, like Seb just said, it'll eventually teams and other defenders will work out not how to stop him, but they'll work out ways to slow Man City down. And City will naturally lose some momentum at some point. It always happens in a season. You can't just go all the way through it. They'll have a game where they end up drawing 0-0 or 1-0. When they got held by Aston Villa, wasn't it, the other day?
Would you care to make a prediction as to how many Premier League goals he will end the season on, JJ?
Over 30, I would have thought.
I'm going to predict 43. That's my prediction.
I just think there are too many good players and
I predict 43.
Guardiola's not resting him
even
yet.
If he does slow down, he could still get over 40 easily. His current rate is on for 60.
Yeah, that'd be good.
I mean, right now,
like
after 10 games, if he has 15 goals, that's really not far off 60.
It's really fun. I don't want to try and put a pin in the balloon.
Give me a prediction, please, and we'll come back to this. Steve Hankey will dig this out.
36 goals.
36. Yeah, you panicked a little bit. You went
no, I thought it'd be over 30. But I remember when Shearer used to be amazing back in the day.
I think he slows down after New Year, because I think someone hurts him. I think out of frustration and just out of a lack of options, like a rugged centre half gets a bit physical at some point.
Are you thinking about hurting him, Seb? Don't hurt him, please.
Well, in his last season at Dortmund, he had a few injuries, and just because of kind of past precedent, anytime you see a player who is that quick, who moves so well, who's so agile, I always think of original Ronaldo.
Brazilian Ronaldo.
You always think of kind of the stress on the joints, and you kind of worry. I'm like JJ, I kind of want the spectacle to go on, but that's in the back of my mind. I think teams who don't have the kind of the technical resources to subdue him, eventually someone just starts kicking him, and I think.
But what's your number though?
Yeah,
I think
that's the main thing I want.
Yeah, I think he'll get to 30, and then I think it slows down.
So yeah, but what's your number though?
33.
Okay, 33 for Seb, 36 for JJ, 43 for me. What do I get at the end of the season when I'm correct? Will you grovel for me?
Admiration.
Can I get a little grovelling?
I'll just go, you were right.
Yeah?
Do you
Yeah,
like that?
yeah.
That counts as grovelling.
You like that?
Yeah.
That's one of your favourite things, though, being told that you're right about stuff.
Yeah,
You
I
like
tell
that.
myself it when I go to sleep every night.
If you like this video, please consider subscribing to the channel. The Athletic is home to some of the world's best sports journalists, including David Ornstein, Daniel Taylor, Ollie Kay, Amy Lawrence and Rafa Honigstein. There are journalists dedicated to each Premier League team, so every fan gets the coverage they deserve, not just the big clubs. And you can try it for free now for 30 days. See the link in the description.